What if I told you that these two phones you're looking at aren't actually identical? One of them would cost you upwards of $500 off contract, and the other one will cost you a cool $117. What's the difference, you ask? Well, one of them's fake. And today, what we're going to be doing is dissecting the difference between the real and fake Samsung Galaxy S5. One quick note before we dive into this video here: for future reference, anytime you see a phone on the right, that will be the real Samsung Galaxy S5, and anytime you see a phone on the left, that is going to be the fake one. The same goes for any time there's a shot where the phones are stacked on top of each other. The one on the top, again, is going to be the real one, and the one on the bottom will be the fake S5. Without any further ado, let's get into comparing the two. The first thing we'll take a look at here is the box of the fake and real S5, and surprisingly, they're fairly identical. Usually a dead giveaway can be comparing the two boxes, but in this case, they're almost the same. When a closer inspection is taken of the back, though, you can see that there's a little bit of a difference. Again, the real one on the right here is a different version. It's the 900H, so it does have some Spanish on it, while the one on the left here is just the G900. Again, they're kind of similar, but not too far off for being a fake versus a real. Now, when we take a look inside the box, the two don't have all that much in common. So here are the accessories you get with the standard S5, your charging cable, headphones, the wall adapter, and then some extra ear tips to go on your headphones. Now we go ahead and take a look at the fake accessories, and oddly enough, this is very strange, I actually found. You get a USB 3.0 charging cable, some earphones, your wall adapter, and then this strange quick start guide that directs you to the Hong Kong Samsung website. Now if we go ahead and actually take a look at the phones here, the backs again are very similar. On the right here you have this more of a clean colored white S5, which is real, and then you have this little bit of an off-white for the fake one, but still not too much different. They look very, very similar, which I was very surprised to see on the backs here. Taking a closer look in at the cameras and the Samsung logo, again fairly similar, but you can obviously tell the off-white of the fake S5. Both cameras have that dual flash going on for them, as well as the cameras themselves look very similar. Taking a look here at the bottom of the phone, again very, very similar. However, you will notice on the real S5, the USB logo is not that colored in, as where the fake one on the bottom there has that white USB logo. The sides of the phone for both devices are almost exactly identical. It seems as though they have the same plastic chrome bezel that the real S5 has on the fake S5. Also worth noting is that the lock button is placed exactly in the same spot. Everything again on the top is just about the same amongst both devices. However, one thing I did notice was that the small little piece of metal inside the headphone port is on the left on the real S5 and on the bottom on the fake S5. And finally, taking a look at the left side here, the volume rockers are basically identical amongst both the real and fake S5. Now, despite most of the exterior being the same amongst both, the one thing that really stood out to me was this ugly white Samsung logo on the fake S5. Not sure if that's just the case on my phone or if all of them come like that, but definitely something worth noting. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is just a little bit of a live hands-on here. I'm just going to turn both these phones on and kind of play with them for the next little while. Again, keep in mind that the one on the right is the real one and the left one is our fake S5, and upon first unlocking them, it's kind of surprising that they are fairly similar, from wallpaper to widgets to the way they're orientated out of the box. It's all very, very similar, and it was kind of shocking as I wasn't expecting that right to start. Now, if you are paying attention here, you notice that the screen and home button go a little bit wonky on me on the fake S5. I think this is just from first using it. It's not honestly that bad, but it was a little strange right there. So I'll go ahead here and open up these apps kind of side by side on both devices to show you how each one compares. So we'll start here with the messaging, and you see it's basically the same. The logo's a little off, but again, very similar and not too far off on each one. I'll go ahead and open up the app drawer here, and again, fairly similar. I wasn't really expecting this from the fake, and again, when you go into the actual settings here, also similar again. One thing you've probably noticed is this weird little widget picker here on the left fake one, and I'll touch on that in a little bit, but I just wanted to mention it for now. We'll go ahead and click on this Google folder and see what's inside on the real one, and then on the fake one, we have Flipboard and whatnot on your fake over there. However, you can also see on the real there's Hangouts, Play Games, and things like that that aren't yet installed onto the fake S5. So first impressions here looking at both is I was actually rather surprised to see that they really are similar out of the box. That's not usually the case when you see cloned phones here, but for this case, this S5 is pretty similar to the real one. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do here is just kind of click through all these different apps. So we have the phone app first. Again, kind of similar here, not too far off. Images are a little bit different, but they function essentially the same. I had 2 calls on the fake one. I have no idea why, from some random number. Next, we'll check out the email applications here. Again, rather similar. One thing you do notice is that you have the white keyboard on your Real S5 as you still are using that black keyboard from older generations of TouchWiz on the fake S5, as you can see here. So you have that white keyboard versus the black keyboard. So the one thing that I was actually wondering when I first got this phone, which I assume many of you are too, is can you actually connect and use Google services like the Play Store and Hangouts and things along that line? Another funny thing here to note was that the fake S5 actually had the Google Talk app, and that was outdone a while ago by the Hangouts app now, as you see on the Real S5 there. Just something funny I thought I'd mention. Opening up the app drawer, you get some pre-installed apps on the fake S5, which are just right along there with well on the Real S5. So you have that Kids Mode app, Google Maps, Twitter, your voice search, things like that. So if you take a look here at the actual menu drawer or your notification center, again, very similar. Coloring is a little bit off between the two, but they really didn't miss it by that much when trying to replicate it on the fake S5. One other thing worth mentioning here is that the voice search doesn't actually work on the fake S5. So if I say, "Okay, Google," I'm not actually going to get a reply from the fake S5 there. So I did talk about this earlier, and what I was saying was to see if we could actually figure out if this phone connected to the Google Play Store, and despite my better judgment, I decided to actually log in, and it looks like it does connect to the Google Play Store. It doesn't have all the gestures like swiping between pages and things like that, as you can kind of notice here, that one on, say, a Nexus 5 would, or the actual S5. However, it still does work, it connects, and you can download apps at your own whim. One other thing that I mentioned a little bit earlier is this strange little button that kind of floats around on the screen. It's very resemblant to Assistive Touch on iOS, if you've seen that before. And it just kind of floats around. You can place wherever you like, and if you click it, it gives you a tray of applications that you use most often. So if I click on web browser here, it kind of pops up the web browser right away. It's kind of strange. I don't know if I like it or not, but it's there, and I haven't found a way to turn it off yet in the settings. Now obviously this fake S5 can't be that cheap if it were to have all the same components as the real S5. So let's go ahead and check out something like the camera and see how the two of them stack up when taking pictures. So what I'm doing here is I've just set up a little camera stand with an Android figure in the background, and I'm going to go ahead and take a shot with the real S5 first, just using the default settings on the real S5's camera. So here is the picture in all of its glory, full 13 megapixels, file size coming in at roughly 3.1 megabytes. Now obviously I could take a bunch of different other pictures to show off the capabilities of this camera, but that's not the point of this video. I just wanted to show how it stands up to the fake S5, which I'm going to show you right now. So here is the fake S5's camera, and not surprisingly, it looks very identical to the real one. So this is the actual shot I just took, coming in at roughly 300 kilobytes and shooting on a 4 megapixel camera. It's a little bit disappointing to see that that's where it was cut back, but obviously for a price so cheap, something had to go, and they didn't use the real S5's actual camera you see, but the app itself is fairly similar. It still has a lot of the features like different HDR modes, rich tones, little features you can add on. It's just kind of sad that even though the box says it's a 16 megapixel camera, it really looks no better than a 4 megapixel, and I believe that's what it actually is. So while we're on the page of new hardware features, one other thing that I was curious about was, does this new S5, the fake one, have the fingerprint scanner that you see on the real one on the right here? And the answer to that is sadly no. There is no fingerprint scanner on the fake S5, and I kind of figured that would be because if they put it on there, it would kind of have to work, and for that to happen, there definitely would be a higher price point. I rummaged through all the settings on the fake S5, and nowhere did it even mention the use of an actual fingerprint scanner, so that put that one to rest. Now, even though they couldn't pack in all the hardware features on the fake S5, they definitely got all the software ones in there. As you see here, that does still include the S-Health app, the pedometer, the stepometer, whatever you want to call it, and you see it works, it functions, and that is on the fake S5 itself. They did get in S-Health there, and that works perfectly fine. Also on the fake S5, there still are your Samsung apps such as Chat On, S-Memo, things along those lines that come whenever you install TouchWiz onto a Samsung Android device. So if I click on Chat On here on the fake phone, you can see that it still tells me, hey, this works, you can use it, lets me sign in, and Chat On is an app that works on the fake S5 surprisingly. So I'll just go ahead and flip through a couple other pages on the fake S5 here just to show it off a little bit more. We have a file manager there, which is a little bit strange, kind of like the downloads folder on actual Android. And then you see you still can slide your toggles in your notification center there. That really hasn't changed. They've mimicked that fairly well. As you see here, if you power off the phone, it even has the same screen off animation as well as the same unlock animation that you'd find on a real Samsung Galaxy S5. The clone even has the same wallpapers that come on the new TouchWiz as well as the Samsung Galaxy S5. As you see here, we have this bright rainbow wallpaper that is one of the stock ones on the real S5 as well, so that hasn't even changed either. Going off of what I was mentioning earlier, I was very surprised at how similar this fake S5 was to the actual real S5. They do have a version of Android running, and I was kind of curious what's going on there to see if it's real Android or what's going on, because as I said, lots of similarities, so the software is very same. So we are running 4.4.2 for our Android version on the fake one, as well on the real one. And if you go ahead and do the little Easter egg trick where you tap it, KitKat up pops on the real Android. And same thing if I do this though for the fake one, I get Android, it just doesn't say 4.4.2, and if I hold it down, I get these funky little trippy animations kind of here, as where you should be getting the KitKat candy to fling around on the real S5. So you have this strange and weird picture, which I have no idea what it means, and that's what I should be getting. Again, you have this light show design, still don't know what it means, a little bit strange, but you really have to dive in to figure that one out, but I did find it. So then after this, it kind of begs the question, is it worth purchasing the fake S5? And if you had told me before discovering and really taking a look at it, I would have said no. However, it is fairly similar and it's not too far off from the real S5. Obviously, you're missing some hardware features like a nice camera and a fingerprint scanner, but the software is really all there. And if you need a budget Android phone running the latest version of Android, you can pick one up for $117 and it's not too bad. I'll post a link down below in case anyone's curious. Thanks so much guys for watching. I'd love to hear your feedback down below in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.